to another cartoonist breakdown. Today I will probably be going over the Darkseid sketch that I did and the Ardina sketch that I did. Or I guess it would be a fan art. I shouldn't say it's a sketch. It's a little bit more than a sketch. What can I say about this? Actually, to tell you the truth, these have been my funnest ones yet. Or at least drawing wise. Ardina was a bit problematic because I was just like, I don't know, man. Like I don't know how to describe it. It was fun, interesting, like color wise. Like all of these things color wise have been the more of the chore. Not so much of like what needs to, like inking wise and texture wise, that hasn't really been a problem. Like I actually have like a surplus of that shit. Like, you know, give me textures, but coloring it has just been the toughest because it's like I'm trying to adhere to the color standards of the day, and it's tough. I mean, yeah, I get it that, you know, people back when, you know, coloring the stuff for printing costs, you know, for printing, you know, that was a challenge. But yeah. And I'm not even looking at this as a color challenge. I mean, most of it has been more of like, okay, what is these characters' colors? Here, they're here. Okay. Like, figuring out Ardina's colors and what to do wasn't all that hard. But the trouble was, I'm trying to do it as if it was printed on the old printers of old. Which, I mean, all printers still go by the 4-color process, but they're a lot more refined and a lot better. Like I think the gap between computer color and printing color are still, there's still a gap, but I think it's smaller than when I first learned about it. And I first learned about it when I was at Kinko's like 10-15 years ago. So, you know, I imagine now it will almost match your screen one for one. I believe. I don't know. I haven't done any type of research. It's just a thought. But back when, you know, trying to do it that way, there is a lot more of a gap because one's digital and, you know, there was no digital back then. So, but the part is like they did a lot of color mixing. So I can't just choose like a simple, oh, here's a color purple, I'll just do purple, you know. So I'm trying to go in that more of a depth, like, okay, well, how did they get purple? Let me see. And I try to go by like scans and stuff online to find it. And my main problem is the program that I use, which is Infinite Painter, which is a super awesome program. I love Infinite Painter. It fits everything that I need. There are still some adjustments I would like to see done. I haven't actually made my grievances with that because they're minor quirks. They're more like, I would like to see them, but I know how to function without them. One would be like, you know, making a page. That's I have a new light to kind of brighten my face up, but it was too bright or I'm too close. Anyways, it's like like when I do a comics page, it's kind of tough because I have to figure it out. But fortunately for me, I made a template, so I just do that. The other one is, you know, they have everything in pixels, and I can't think that way. Like, I don't know what it means. Like, I just kind of see the scale, and I just kind of like go in between normal and best. So it's like in between. So I still have like, it's not going to do a system slowdown on my tablet, but I'm not going to get like a really small image. But I heard the newer versions are going to have that, so that's cool. I can't complain about that. But but the other one is like doing this, like you can do screen tone, and there are screen tones, but I don't know, like it just doesn't seem effective. Like it just seems like it's slapdashed on there. Maybe I need to experiment with them. I've more or less have made my own brushes, as well as trying to figure it out. But yeah, it's a bit tough. I think it's more just like I don't know which colors used to make it, and all the guides that I've been trying to find, I really don't know how to read them. I have to do more research. But yeah, I guess that will come. So other than that, it's been pretty fun. I'll probably talk about more in-depth stuff, not so much with the projects, but maybe just whatever's going on in my life. But today we'll be going over Darkseid, I believe. Sometimes I have it like an idea of what I want to do, but sometimes I don't. So tentatively, future Sean will probably say, okay, well, I want to do this one instead. So, but past Sean, me, or present Sean, whenever you're watching this, I know it's a lot of Seans and a lot of present, past, and future. So present, past Sean currently is going to say it's going to be Darkseid print and the Ardenia print. A quick background on some of them. So Ardenia, it was like in this one Silver Surfer graphic novel, and she shows up. I haven't actually read the issue or the story in a long time, but I'm pretty sure she was there to persuade the Silver Surfer from turning his back on Galactus, and then they like fall in love, and essentially they have like Comics Code Authority approved sex, but it's not. I don't know. If I can remember, I will try to post it right here to show you what I'm talking about. I mean, it's not graphic. I mean, it's the 70s, and it was Jack Kirby. So, I mean, and it's Marvel. So, it's not like some underground zine stuff. But I read it, and I was like, did they just have some sex? And I wasn't even being like a perv or nothing. It was just like, just the way the two pages went, it was like this one splash page of like bodies dancing everywhere like a globe, and you know, it's all nice. And then the first panel of the next page just has them kind of like, you know, laying or kind of like relaxed, lounging on like a pad of grass surrounded by flowers. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they just had some, I think they're having pillow talk. I think they just had some sex. And I'm not like, I wasn't like thinking about that like the entire time, but I thought it was so weird. It was just like, okay, trying to convince the Herald of Galactus not to eat the planet, or to help his hungry slaver. Sure, let's have some sex. That makes sense. And the other one, yeah, trust me, it's a fun story, and it's very well illustrated by Jack Kirby. I love it a lot. Illustration-wise, story, it's a very let's get the band back together type of book. I keep saying it's like the Beatles' last concert, you know, on top of what was it, like Apple Studios, I believe it was. You know, it was like the last song. It was the last concert, the last time any of them are going to be on the same, like, there. You know, so it's kind of like that. And someone had pointed out online that it was the last time they did anything, which I totally agree. I think that is the case. I'm pretty sure after Marvel, Kirby left the comics field altogether for animation. So there you go. A little bit about that. Now the next one is Darkseid. And not much to tell. I mean, it's Darkseid. If you haven't watched any type of cartoon in the last 20 years, if you're a big fan of the Zack Snyder cut, you've heard of Darkseid. But basically, he's like cosmic Hitler. You know, he has his own planet. Everybody's miserable on that planet. He's happy that everybody's miserable on his planet. He's a dick. He usually gets paired up with Superman as his like arch nemesis, but I think that more or less just came about when the animated series came along in the 90s, and they felt like that would have been a perfect villain for him, because before that he really didn't care much for Superman. He did not. He didn't care shit about Superman. Like the Kirby run that I'm talking about and referring to, I don't think they were in the same room together at all. Like, not at all. And he was on Earth. I believe he might have even been in Metropolis. But he did not give a shit at all. I think he was more consumed about, like, I think he was just more consumed about the anti-life equation. And, you know, he would run into the other fourth world guys, you know, like Orion, and I can't remember the dude with the fire head, Mr. Miracle, and Big Barda, you know, those people, the Forever people. I think he ran into them a bunch of times. He ran into more of them than Superman did. And Superman was in their first issue. So there you go. Yeah. So Superman. But anyways, that's who he is. Color-wise, I did not expect it to go that way. I think I was trying to do one for one, like try to make it, but I don't know, the way I was doing it, I don't think I was going to be able to get that purple the way I wanted. I might have actually just mixed up the whole thing, like, to be honest, but I end up liking it, like, to a bunch where I'm like, oh wow, that's a keeper. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to do that. I like it. So I think in my original idea it was going to be a little bit more warmer to kind of match like the heat and the fire of that world. But to tell you the truth, I think I kind of like the blues and the purple, and only his eyes are red, because that just, like, the red just matches like his fiery, his rage, his just evilness, and the blues kind of match like the coldness of that planet, at least the way I perceive it. It's just like it's a very rough place to be on Apocalypse. Literally, the place is called Apocalypse. It's worse. It's the worst. So there you go. All right. Well, without further ado, sorry for rambling all those minutes. Y'all have a good day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Hi, thank you, past me, which was like the other day. So yeah, here we are. My name's Sean Atkins, of course, because you just saw me introduce this stuff. And I have to admit, after re-listening to it last night, I was like, I just faked myself out. Because I I said, yes, it will be about Darkseid and Nadina. And I was like, without even listening, I actually uploaded a different one that I wanted to show off. And I was like, oh crap, I should probably like do that instead with the Darkseid and Nadina. And then I listened to it more and I was like, oh, whatever future Sean decides to do. And I was like, ah, shit. So, yeah, I just played myself. I'm having some coffee. It's not too early in the morning though. It's like almost noon. I've been up for hours getting my kid off to school, who apparently doesn't like school now, so that's fun. Yeah. So, for the most part, I'm almost done with these Kirby cards. I mean, I finished the first set, and I would like to go to do a different set. Not now, because I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to print them, which obviously will probably be like cards. But you know, I gotta find a printer, as well as I think I'm going to reformat some of them to kind of fit the space a bit. But I generally like it. I finished the last one the other day. It was Lockjaw, which I haven't shared on Instagram, or at least not at the point of this recording. You know, it might be up by the time I put this up, but you know, it's here or there. Overall, the series I really liked. I liked how everything turned out. I liked, I mean, there were kind of like some lukewarm stuff I as an artist didn't care for, because it was just like, oh well, I guess I could have did this better, or I could have did that better. I still got a lot of experimenting to do, like to kind of give it that vintage look. Normally, I don't really particularly care for that. I mean, I love vintage look. I guess it's just an old thing where that was kind of like the fad a couple years back of making your pages look all vintage and old and yellowed, and I guess I kind of don't. I love the look. I guess I just don't care for the aesthetic, because I guess it was always kind of like this pompous type of stuff that kind of went with it. Like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. They really knew how to print back then. It was like, no, they didn't. I mean, they did, but they did it because it was the cheapest they can do at that time and the quickest. Like, to me, I always look at, when I think of printing, I think about it as not so much a prestige, but more of like a means to an end. And they did what they could. And I mean, don't get me wrong. They probably squeezed as best quality as they could. Like, from the printers who printed it to the artist who drew it. But I'm just trying to be real here. You know, back in the day, comic books was regarded as low art form. Now, I'm not saying that as in a mean way. Even like the artists that drew in it, they looked at it as an art form. They got paid shit wages. Like, they should have been paid a lot more. That's why a lot of cats, like a lot of artists, were always trying to jump to the comic strips, because that paid more. That had more prestige, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, but I'm not saying that these people didn't elevate the art form of the comic book. And I kind of feel like in the medium of comics, I kind of feel like the comic book won out in the race, if there was a race between comic strips and comic books. Because, I mean, comic strips are great, but I think they're not as regarded as much as comic books now. And that's saying much about comic books, because I often feel like the art form is not regarded as an art form. I mean, maybe a little bit now, but I don't know. I guess I kind of feel more of like there's probably more people that are fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe than like the actual Marvel Universe. Like, and I'm not sure throwing shade. I mean, movies are a lot easier to digest than comics. And, I kind of was hoping that it would actually translate better, between the movies and the books. Like, people would gravitate to the books afterwards. Like, that's how I kind of grew up as. Like, watching the Batman series and Batman the movie, and then, I mean, there was X-Men the cartoon at that time too. So, but to me, I was like, that was my first comics, was Batman and X-Men, because they had TV shows and I wanted to get more into them. But, I mean, it's here or there. You have your fans of them, and that's fine. That's still fine. And I'm not saying that Marvel and DC are the only game in town when it comes to comics. I'm not saying that. Like, you should always support your indie comics, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I guess it's just always easier to nitpick, or you have a lot more evidence of how they used to print back in the day with Marvel, at least color-wise. A lot of indie comics back in the day just printed in black and white because that was the most reasonably priced way to do it. As a printer, or as a indie artist myself, it was kind of tough, because I would actually print more zines of my comic strips than anything else. I actually wanted to hit up on this real quick with the Darkseid before I keep going. I really liked how this color, like, I couldn't decide on the color, and I really wanted to be fire and warm, but then it didn't work out, and then I just kind of switched the script and made it blue, and I just added more of a limited tone, and it actually turned out 10 times better than I thought. Like, I was trying to get, like, coloring at it, but I couldn't figure it out. So, and as you can see, there's like a little bit of screen tone, and I was trying to, the way I've been doing it is, like, I do like a layer of screen tone and then I shrink it down to have smaller dots. So, and there's that. And next you'll see the finished product afterwards with glorious fire effects, because you gotta have some fire. Anyway, so yeah, I just found it just kind of, like, I look at that, like, maybe because I worked at Kinko's and working at GAI for so many years, it was just kind of like, you saw how people took it as a means to an end, and I kind of felt like that's how it was in the comic industry. And I'm not saying you can't figure out, like, the best way to do it, but there's a reason why Hulk is green and not gray. Just in case you don't know, it's because they couldn't match the colors and they were having difficulty, and green was easier. There you go. So, but overall, I generally have been liking this, and I've been liking how I've been trying to figure out the effects, and just the coloring itself has just been really fun. And then looking up, like, how they colored it, and, like, I didn't want to do a simple filter of, halftone, and just have that everywhere, because I knew that would have probably looked ugly. So I was legitimately trying to get it as close as possible. I meant, like, with the Doctor Doom one, I kind of, like, I didn't take shortcuts, but it was definitely, like, not like the way they did it. So, because, I don't know, green is always weird. Like, it didn't have, like, the halftone or the dots. But, I mean, I know there was yellow in there, and I was like, damn, how the fuck do you do this? Because I was trying to look at the CMYK palette, and I'm like, there's probably an easy way to do this. And I was trying to look online, so maybe with my next set, I'll try to either ease up on that type of process or read more into it and try to figure that out. So, there's that. So, moving on. You got Ardina here, who is like a minor character in Silver Surfer. But what else has been going on? I just been trying to catch up on stuff and trying to catch up on like artwork, and I finally finished the Phantasmos comic strip, or at least the art for it, so now I just gotta letter it, which I'll do after this. I feel really bad that I haven't gotten it up on Patreon first. I do plan on changing up the Patreon account, but I think it's just more I'm taking down the $50 tier because I don't really get too many hits on it, as well as I believe it's just been confusing. Like people think it might be $50 a month, but I put in the description that no, you can just pay for it and then be done. Like you can just say done. But I think there's an easier way on Patreon where you can just ask for submissions or commissions and pay me through there. Or maybe I'll start linking people to Coffee or Ko-fi and just do it that way. One or the other. So yeah, and maybe another news. I'm probably gonna stop with the podcast. It takes too much time, and I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself when it comes to it, because I'm like talking about this, or maybe even talking to a friend, but I kind of get the same information out through this type of format of like the whips, because I kind of like doing this. Like I like talking just the way I'm talking, and there's something visual going on. So that's going to be happening. Maybe I'll release a couple more things through the podcast, but it's coming to an end. So, but on that note, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I think this timing is right. I don't know. This voiceover button doesn't really tell me, but I'm wrapping the end of this, and I want to thank all my Patreons and all the love on Instagram lately that kind of like made me go into doing this. So until then, stay classy. Bye.